Welcome to your custom deep dive. Today we have a really fascinating mission. We're going to unpack this massive, honestly counterintuitive paradox in the business world right now.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdest situations in tech at the moment.
It really is. So we're basing this on a detailed financial review from Investing ABC, and they're looking at Salesforce's Q1 fiscal 2027 earnings. And I mean, let me just drop these headline figures for you because they are absolutely staggering.
They really are. On paper, it looks flawless.
Right. So Salesforce just reported record Q1 revenue of $11.13 billion. That's up 13%. They hit a record 34.8% non-GAAP operating margin. And their new AI product, Agentforce, it just crossed $1.2 billion in annual recurring revenue.
Which is just a massive milestone for a new product line.
Massive. But here is the twist. Here's the paradox we're looking at today. Despite all those record-breaking numbers, despite printing cash, the stock dropped roughly 30% from January to April of 2026.
Yeah, it fell all the way down to, what, $178?
Exactly, 178. So today, we're going to decode this exact mystery for you. We need to explore what actually happens when a software giant transitions from this, high-growth darling to just a disciplined cash machine right in the middle of the AI boom.
Yeah, because to really understand that 30% drop, we can't just look at this one quarter. We have to zoom out. We need to look at the company's 5-year trajectory because that disconnect between the business reality and how the market perceives them.
It's even more extreme, right?
Oh, it's wild. It's so much more extreme over a 5-year timeline.
Okay, let's unpack this because the 5-year picture really puts it into perspective. Say you took $10,000 and invested it in Salesforce 5 years ago.
Right, back when the stock was trading around $244.
Yep. Today, at 178, that same $10,000 investment would only be worth about $7,300. I mean, you're looking at a 27% decline over 5 years.
But what's fascinating here is the underlying business reality. During those exact same 5 years, while your stock portfolio dropped 27%, their trailing 12-month operating profit didn't just grow. I mean, it completely exploded.
Wait, exploded how much?
It went from $500 million to $9.9 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a 19 times increase. Not 19%, 19 times.
Okay, so it's like buying a house, right? You buy this house, you completely renovate it, you make it 19 times bigger, 19 times more efficient. And then the market appraiser walks up and somehow values the property 27% lower than when you bought it.
That's a perfect way to look at it. And the reason that appraiser is completely slashing the value is because of PE compression, the price-to-earnings ratio.
Right, the multiple.
Exactly. 5 years ago, the market was pricing Salesforce at over 130 times earnings.
Yeah.
People were paying for infinite future growth. But today, it sits at 19 times.
19 times, which is literally the absolute lowest in its 5-year history, right?
Sure. Yes. It's actually trading at a discount compared to the broader software group. So their earnings just grew dramatically faster than the stock price fell.
Okay, but we have to talk about how they got those earnings up so high, because that 19 times profit explosion, it didn't just happen by accident.
No, it was absolutely forced. And the funny thing is, the exact cure that fixed their profits is what's causing all this market hesitation right now.
Yeah, so let's talk about the pivot. Back in 2023, Salesforce went through this huge activist-driven restructuring. They went from the classic Silicon Valley growth at all costs mindset to just ruthless margin discipline overnight.
We're talking massive layoffs, real estate consolidation, the whole 9 yards.
Right. And mechanically, it worked. They drove their operating margins from a tiny 3% in fiscal 2022 to an expanding 22% GAAP margin today.
But that brings us to the R40 reality check. If you look at software companies, the R40 score is basically the holy grail of health metrics.
Okay, remind me how we calculate that again.
It's simple. You just take your revenue growth percentage and add your operating margin percentage. For a healthy premium software company, that combined score needs to be 40% or higher.
Got it. And Salesforce sits at what, 35%?
Exactly. 35%. And they haven't crossed that 40% benchmark in 20 straight quarters.
See, I have to push back on that, though. If their margins are literally at record highs right now, why does the market care so intensely about missing the R40 by just 5 points? I mean, who cares?
Because of the missing engine. Wall Street knows that the margin expansion phase is largely in the rearview mirror. I mean, you can only cut so many jobs and close so many offices before you start hurting the actual business.
Right.
So to get that R40 score up, the revenue growth engine has to take over. But right now, their revenue growth is stuck in the 8% to 13% range.
Ah, okay. So the market is treating them like a mature legacy vendor instead of a growth story.
Precisely. And we're seeing actual weakness in their older segments like marketing, commerce, and Tableau. And the CFO even explicitly called out softness in Tableau bookings on the earnings call.
Which is wild, and if revenue growth is stuck and those legacy segments are softening, we really have to look at what's threatening their core foundation. Because the source material for this deep dive, they actually rate Salesforce's competitive moat as merely narrow.
Just narrow for a cloud pioneer.
Right, and wait, Salesforce has over 150,000 enterprise customers. They've got OpenAI, they've got the US Air Force, LVMH. I mean, they have $67.9 billion in remaining performance obligations. How in the world is their moat narrowing?
It all comes down to the AI threat, the existential threat to the entire per-seat software model.
Because AI is changing how the work gets done.
Exactly. Artificial intelligence can now translate schemas. It can recreate workflows semi-automatically. The core fear, the bear case here, is that AI agents are going to eliminate the need for human CRM seats faster than Salesforce can scale up new revenue.
I mean, if an AI can do the job of 3 junior sales reps, you're not going to buy those 3 extra Salesforce licenses.
That is exactly what terrifies investors, the seat erosion. But to be fair, they do have a defensible layer protecting them.
The ecosystem.
Yes, the app exchange. They have over 7,000 apps. They have 4 million developers in their ecosystem.
And didn't the source mention something crazy about Slack apps in Q1?
Yeah, in Q1 alone, customers built 3 million custom Slack apps.
Yeah.
And get this, 250,000 of those were custom AI agents.
Oh, wow. So they are deeply, deeply entrenched.
Very deeply. But that still doesn't solve the revenue growth problem.
No, it doesn't, which is why they're fighting back. Because since AI is the primary threat to that traditional per-seat model, their entire future relies on turning AI into their biggest revenue driver, right? To fix that stuck growth.
Exactly. They had to disrupt themselves.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Agentforce, their AI product, just crossed $1.2 billion in ARR. That is up 205% year over year. And if you combine their AI and data ARR, which includes Informatica Cloud, it hit $3.4 billion.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just about selling seats anymore. It's a complete shift to a consumption-based revenue model.
Okay, explain that shift, because I think that's super important for people to understand.
Think of the old model like a gym membership. You pay $100 a month whether you go every day or never. That's the per-seat model. The new consumption model is more like a taxi meter. You pay for the exact distance the AI drives you.
And the underlying metrics they're using for this taxi meter are just wild. They processed 28.6 trillion tokens this quarter. That's up 152% sequentially.
But the real metric to watch is AWUs, active workload units.
Right, because that's when the AI actually completes a task.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. When the AI agent does the work, it consumes an AWU. They had 3.8 billion of those in Q1, which is up 111%. And their top 10 AWU customers, they're spending 1.5 times more than they did last year.
So the consumption flywheel is really starting to spin.
It really is.
And honestly, this totally defeats that bear case we were talking about earlier, the whole AI seat erosion thing. Because if you look at the Q1 deal data, out of 98 record-breaking deals that were worth over $1 million, 7 of the top 10 added new seats.
Wait, really? They added new human seats.
7 of the top 10. And over 50% of the Agentforce bookings actually came from existing customers expanding their overall spend. It wasn't cannibalizing them.
That directly challenges the fear that AI is just going to wipe out their user base.
Exactly. And we have to mention Slack, too, because Slack is booming. It drove half of all those $1 million-plus wins. Management is teasing that Slack could eventually be a $10 billion cloud on its own.
Which sounds great. But the reality is, Agentforce growing at 205% is fantastic, but at $1.2 billion, it is still a tiny fraction of a $46 billion total revenue pie.
Yeah, that's true. It's a massive ship to turn.
Exactly. So while they wait for Agentforce to actually scale up and move the needle on that $46 billion, management is making this massive, incredibly aggressive financial maneuver.
Because they want to capitalize on the depressed stock price.
Right. Which brings us to the buyback.
Yeah, the massive buyback. Management announced a $25 billion accelerated share repurchase in ASR. It is the largest in company history.
$25 billion.
$25 billion. And they delivered 103 million shares up front. They basically retired roughly 10% of their entire float in a single quarter.
But this raises an important question.
Yeah.
How do you pay for a $25 billion buyback instantly?
You borrow it.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. It's debt for equity. To fund this, Salesforce issued $25 billion in new debt. So their debt to EBITDA jumped from a very comfortable 0.9 times up to 2.2 times.
And because they have to pay the interest on all that new debt, they had to slash their free cash flow growth guidance, right?
Yeah, from over 10% all the way down to just 4 or 5%.
Okay, so let me translate this. Management is deliberately sacrificing their short-term cash flow growth just to lock in this massively reduced share count while the stock is sitting at that historically cheap 19 times PE ratio.
That's exactly what they're doing. They are betting the farm that Wall Street has undervalued them.
So what does this all mean for you listening? I mean, what is the impending catalyst here? Because the Q2 guide shows revenue growth decelerating slightly down to like 10 or 11%.
But management has explicitly committed to an organic revenue reacceleration in the second half of the year, the H2 verdict.
Right. So if Agentforce and Slack can actually deliver that H2 reacceleration.
Then the stock's multiple has room to expand back up from 19 times to, say, 25 times.
But if they don't?
If not, that $25 billion buyback is basically their only lever. And they just remain a low double-digit grower in the eyes of the market.
Man. And this is exactly why this deep dive matters. It is a masterclass in how markets actually weigh current profits versus future growth narratives. I mean, it proves that even when you do everything right financially, record cash flow, 19 times profit growth, a perceived lack of future innovation is going to anchor your valuation.
Absolutely. Wall Street doesn't pay for yesterday's wins. They pay for tomorrow's growth. And honestly, it leaves us with one final, really provocative thought to ponder.
What's that?
As AI agents continue to handle more and more of these active workload units, are we witnessing the death of the per-seat software subscription model altogether?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, if the future of enterprise software is just paying for work done instead of employees logged in, the entire tech industry might have to fundamentally rewrite how they make money over the next decade.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating transition to watch. The companies that adapt to the taximeter model are going to win, and the ones stuck selling gym memberships might be in real trouble.
Completely agree. Well, that is all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Just a quick reminder, this was for educational purposes only, so please always do your own homework. We'll see you next time.